Hello everyone, my name is Aiman Maulana from Pokde.net, and today I have something a little fun that I want to do in video. So on our Facebook page, Pokde.net, I popped a question. If you could say anything to any tech or gaming brand, what would you want to say to them? Which of course I was hoping to see responses of like, which of these companies you want to say to and what exactly you want to say. And I've had quite a number of interesting responses, so I figured I might as well, show that on video. So yeah, without further ado, let's go. So from Gavin, dear Ubisoft, stop launching half-assed products and give us full games without bugs on launch. Now that's gonna be a very, very difficult task to do. But I think to fix that, it's gonna be a very, very simple one. They're gonna have to take every single game they have in their library, I think it's what, Ubisoft Connect right now? I don't think it's called Uplay anymore. And just label early access for everything. That way, if the game actually ends up being buggy, it's like, well, it's early access, Just gonna wait for that to be fixed. All games are early access.
Perfect. Right.
Now we have another one from Philip. Dear ASML, TSMC and all chip-making supply chain companies, get together and fight US and all these anti-free trade nonsense. Now, this one, I have something that I'll be looking forward to, like considering the whole US sanctions thing. Now, previously, before this all went down, spiraling downwards, I always thought to myself that Huawei had a very strong chance in pretty much taking over the whole smartphone market, like in Malaysia and a lot of other countries, maybe even the US for example, because they had some pretty solid phones. And this was around the time I was using the Huawei Mate 20X, which was really big, came with a really big battery, and the camera was pretty good as is. And compared to the competition at that point in time, I think they had something solid going on. But once that happened, the whole US sanctions thing happened, yeah, it became a big problem because, again, for the most direct impact of that is a lot of people don't want to use Huawei phones because they don't have access to the Google ecosystem, basically. Now, recently I did review the Huawei P70 Pro and it was a pretty solid phone. Like, I actually really loved it. The downside here is that for Malaysia, it didn't have 5G. But for the most part, I think everyone will be happy with it because it's still, essentially speaking, like it is Android. You can still install Android apps on it. But yeah, if let's just say we come to a point where this thing comes to a halt, the one thing I'll be looking forward to is seeing what Huawei will come up. But then again, given limitations, I also want to see what Huawei will end up producing, not just for China, but the entire world's tech market at that point. Laptops, smartphones, what else? Might have something new to look forward to. Now, next one we have from Shahmi. Dear Digital Extreme, you've ruined every single shooting games out there for me. Now every shooting games will be compared with Warframe. Now at first I thought this was a complaint on Warframe, but turns out no. He enjoyed Warframe so much that every other shooter game now just doesn't compare to it. I did ask out of curiosity how much time did he spend, and he said pretty much in the few hundreds. Now, if I'm being honest here, rookie numbers, come on, you need to raise those numbers up.
Those numbers up, those are rookie numbers in this racket.
Jokes aside, I do know of a number of people who have spent thousands of hours in a bunch of other games, like Dota for example. I know I've spent about 1,500 hours total in Apex Legends, and I think I had almost 1,000 hours in Tekken 7. Now Tekken 8, I still haven't reached that number yet, but yeah, I get it. Like you enjoy the game so much now that future games, shooters, might not live up to your expectations. Especially since you have a number of looter shooters nowadays. I think you have what's it called, First Descendant. I think when you play that, it does feel like you're trying to feel like Warframe again, but it doesn't really quite hit it. I mean, that's just me. Other people might feel differently. Now we have another one from Zamir. Now, dear Xbox teams, your tech means nothing if your art direction is weak. Looking at Halo Infinite, even Gears 5 that was launched on Xbox looks nicer. Forza Horizon 4 still looks nicer than the latest Forza Motorsport. Games need attractive characters. It doesn't need to be about their physical looks, it can be their costume as well. I'm not playing games to look at bland characters, I can look at my mirror for that.
Ooh, self-burn. Those are rare.
Video games must be fun. This is subjective but for real. Is fetch quest fun when you need to do it multiple times to progress? Currently I'm playing Once Human. I'm surprised how come I can enjoy this game for free when premium game still leaves me unsatisfied looking at Starfield. Now I get where he's coming from, because to me, I think at some point there was an emphasis on games with realistic graphics. Like they really wanted the graphics to be that much better, moving on to like much higher resolutions. But to me, it's not the graphics that makes the game, it's the game itself that makes the games. Now, if you don't really have a fun game but just have something that looks nice, that pretty much is the equivalent of me just playing Dead or Alive Extreme Beach Volleyball. You're not really playing it for the game, you know why you're playing the game. As far as, you know, looking bland in the mirror, well, I'm sorry man, that one's just, that's a personal problem right there, but yeah, I mean... Now next we have Vincent with "Give me my print screen button." So in case you guys don't know, I think it's been a thing for a while now. It's not like recent, but basically a lot of keyboards, especially within laptops, you don't have the print screen button anymore. Instead, especially with like, I can't remember if it's in 10 or was it in 11, if you want to do that with a keyboard button, you're gonna have to use Win-Shift-S for that. I think that's another way to do it, but yeah, basically Win-Shift-S and then screenshot from there. Now, I do get where Vincent's coming from. I think it's a lot easier to make use of a print screen button, but I guess that's pretty much where we're gonna go with this. Alternatively, you do have Command-Shift-5, but you're gonna have to change your ecosystem for that to say. Now for the next one, we have from Ken, with the exception of a handful, I find AA in indie games. Now I'm not sure if it's supposed to be pronounced double A, because I know it's AAA, people say AAA games, but yeah. I find AA and indie games are better than AAA games. More innovation, more heart, and just more fun. Now I do agree with this. Now, my number one game, my number one pick out of all the games that have launched so far is still Undertale. There is just so much life, so much character, so much story that you can enjoy from such a simple game. And keep in mind, this game was made by just one person. Granted, this person had a little bit of help in certain areas by like other people, but even then it's like a handful. I can only think of like one or is it two other people. But for the most part, he's doing the game himself, Toby Fox. And that's also precisely why I'm looking forward to like Deltarune. The 2 chapters that has come out so far already made enough of an impact that made me want to see what's gonna happen next. And you know, the whole multiple endings, again how the characters interact with the whole world, some bits and pieces of, what would you call it, Easter eggs? Undertale Easter eggs, because yes, Deltarune is set in the pretty much same universe as Undertale, but they're not supposed to be, it's not supposed to be a sequel, like it's supposed to be kind of like an alternate reality thing. So if you see certain characters from Undertale I recognize, yeah, you're not supposed to take into account what happened in Undertale. Just treat them as just characters in the game, just as is. So yeah, I mean, I feel like the characters breathe more life than a lot of games that you find from like AAA developers and publishers. I think as far as RPGs go, like, I feel like they managed to do a better job than, let's say, Square Enix, for example, especially with like Final Fantasy, like as of late. I'm not saying all Final Fantasy like are bad, especially the recent ones, but I did expect more. I'm pretty sure everyone like remembered how 15 turned out. Like I really enjoyed the game, but the ending just went downhill from there, and it took a while for them to fix it. And it did get better with DLC, but yeah, I mean, I kind of expected better from like these bigger companies and these indie devs, publishers. I'm not saying all, because I know there are some bad indie games, but there are a lot of indie games that are worth the time. You just need to go look out for them and just give it a try. Now we have next from Hassan. Dear Valve, where is Half-Life 3? Now here's the problem with Valve, right? You will never see, more likely than not, a game with the number 3 in it. Left 4 Dead, Left 4 Dead 2, Back 4 Blood. No Left 4 Dead 3. Half-Life, Half-Life 2, Half-Life 3 non-existent. You do have Half-Life Alyx, but it's not 3. And more anything else is like a VR experience. And yeah, the list goes on. I mean, like, you still remember Portal 1, Portal 2. There's still people doing some random stuff with Portal 2 just to add more content into it, but no Portal 3. I wish there was a Portal 3, but unfortunately not. So yeah, I don't think we're gonna see a 3. Hell, apparently, like, from what I've seen from data, like Dota 2 starting to go downhill, I'd be surprised if there was a Dota 3. I'll put it that way. Now, next up we have from Elvin, make Hall effect sticks standard for game controllers. I ain't paying a crap ton of money for a controller that will start drifting after long usage. Now, for those of you who don't know, the stick drift issue was most famously, although not limited to, on the Nintendo Switch with the Joy-Cons. Now, what it basically means is when you actually take like any controller with an analog stick, after a while, it seems like it leans a little bit, just a little bit, towards a certain direction, but it's enough for the game to actually catch it and follow that. So it's as if you're pressing it down, but you're not touching it.
No, don't touch me there. This is my no. Yeah! Ah!
So in a sense, it's not, how do I say this? I won't say it's not optimized, it's not calibrated properly, in a sense. And a lot of these brands have found at least their solution to this, which are Hall effect triggers or sticks. So with this, the problem did get remedied to some extent. I did know there was some, I think it was a GameSir, I feel like it might be GameSir, with Hall effect sticks that still kind of drifted a bit at some point, but you could still recalibrate them and it worked fine again. But yeah, a lot of controllers these days are still kind of a lost cause when it starts drifting, and you kind of have to either buy a new one or you have to repair. But even if you repair, when it comes back to you, it might happen again at some point. So yeah, I do agree. I feel like Hall effect sticks, or maybe a newer, better technology that could fix this. I think we kind of need that as a standard, especially since a lot of like official controllers are really expensive, especially since, let's say, the DualSense or the PS5, for example, right? Like that's about what, 300 ringgit or so? Like could be like slightly lesser than that. Even those Xbox controllers aren't exactly cheap. Like you could get the older versions, sure, that'll be cheaper, but if you want the newer controllers, it might not necessarily have that, unfortunately. So yeah, I do agree. I would like to see that as a standard moving forward. Now we have one from Oliver. I will say to Gigabyte, please buck up on your product quality. Oh.
Boy, that escalated quickly.
Gigabyte product not the best quality. I had a B350 ITX Gigabyte board, got black screen due to random BIOS corruption, and my friend RTX 2060 Aorus died twice, and Gigabyte didn't RMA due to it dying the second time right after the warranty. Now, I don't really want to comment much on the after sales service because I feel like depending on where you go, and especially which country you're from, the experience might differ. But it's also hard to ignore when someone's experiencing it bad enough that it's not just one or two, it's like a good number of their products are like dying out. I mean, to some extent, if the warranty did die out, then that means it should have lasted at least a year, if not 2 years, right, depending on the product. But still, I get where he's coming from. So this isn't from me, this is from the people, the masses. Gigabyte, I think you might need to check on your quality assurance and see what's up. Now we have one from Melvin. I've mentioned this repeatedly. Gamers aren't drawn to titles with superior graphics, sound, and epic narratives. It's mainly those outside the gaming industry who push for new consoles, new phones, new machines, not recognizing that players aren't after the most advanced technologies. How many of you have lost gaming kaki because their gaming devices are no longer up to date to today's performance? I have. Now this, I do agree. Again, it echoes a similar sentiment to what I have like before. It's not about the graphics, it's about the game. Now, I still have this friend who has been gaming on his PlayStation 4 for several years. I think he's probably the one with the longest track record for owning and playing on a PlayStation 4. So much so that a lot of games that we play with him, we need to make sure that it's cross-compatible, that there's cross-play, otherwise we just can't play together because he doesn't have a PC and his laptop was really weak. I think he had another MacBook that was also dying, unfortunately, because it's really old. So yeah, I do agree. I think it's a matter of not just making a game enjoyable. I feel like making games more accessible will be the ideal solution for a lot of people. And that's kind of why I'm happy to see certain like cloud gaming solutions but unfortunately, like the likes of like Google Stadia died off. But yeah, Nvidia is doing that with theirs. So I'm hoping to see, you know, other companies do the same and make it more accessible. Just have it play on the phone, as long as the person has good internet and they can just enjoy the game, sure, why not? But if we're looking at it from the perspective of like how the gaming industry has been like with hardware, right? So for PC, you have to keep upgrading to like a newer, more expensive graphics cards or CPU, and keep in mind it's not cheap. And for the console gamers, you know, it's like moving from the PlayStation 4 to PlayStation 5, Xbox 360 to One to Series X, the Nintendo Switch, which is probably we're gonna see something new there. Yes, people could buy the hardware, but there's also a lot of people who might not see the value in purchasing a platform when they might not necessarily be gaming a lot, and as a result they might just get left behind and they just don't play games anymore, which is kind of a sad thing. But as you grow up, that's kind of the norm nowadays. And if you guys are still young and still enjoying playing games with your friends, treasure that. One day when everyone gets busy, it's gonna end because, well, everyone has their own life to live, right? And it gets even harder when they don't have the necessary platform or even a hardware that's strong enough to play those games. So hopefully by then we have better, more universal solutions that makes games more accessible for a whole lot of people. I think that's the key for this one, accessibility. Now we have one from Farouk. Already did. I got my Cooler Master heatsink for my birthday present, as I talked to one of the reps as being one of the fanboys who's supporting the brand. Still, it's a nice gesture of them to send me one. Memorials for life. I'm assuming he meant like memories for life, not memorial. Otherwise, I assume the cooler is dead.
Oh my God! The dead has risen!
But yeah, I mean, it's kind of nice for Cooler Master to actually do that. It's actually kind of great. Well, Cooler Master, what's my birthday present? Yeah, I could use a chair, maybe a new CPU cooler, power supply maybe. You have my number. Next up we have Raymond. Bethesda Game Studios, I love you, ignore the haters. I don't know. I mean, I respect your opinion and you know, fanboyism, I guess, to like them. I don't think I have much of a problem with them, but I'm hoping to see the next Elder Scrolls sooner rather than later. I think it's been a while since a mainline Elder Scrolls game like came out. I know they're kind of focused on like Elder Scrolls Online, but I want to see a new mainline entry after Skyrim, because I also want to see the modding scene go crazy and see what they can, you know, make out of that. So yeah, I mean, that's just me.
What in oblivion is that?
Sentries, what do you see?
It's in the clouds!
Dragon!
And now for our last comment, we have one from Ashraf. I just want to say Blizzard/NetEase, please give the players what they want. Not just dishing out new cosmetics and bell passes. I agree the devs want to make some money. Players fully understand that. I do too. Well, not just the understanding part, I also want to make money. But at least fix the game mechanics and rebalance some of the classes/PvP contents. My sense lah. Now, it's a very fair point, it's a very valid point. I think, now I'm not familiar enough with enough NetEase games. I've only played a handful of like mobile games, I believe. Or was it just MMORPGs? But I'm more familiar with Blizzard in the sense of like, you know, Warcraft, Diablo, but most importantly for me, the one that's closest to my heart, Overwatch. I think it's a big problem where the game sometimes just isn't balanced right, but I also do understand that it can be very difficult to balance the game sometimes. I think that's kind of why we went from like 6v6 to 5v5. We used to have the ability to freely pick any characters when you're playing, and then now it's like divided to like 1 tank, 2 supports, 2 DPS. And the one thing I'm not a big fan of, but I can understand why they went with this, because it'll be easier to get a bigger player base. The move from being like a paid game to free to play. Now, I don't mind the free to play aspect of it. In fact, if it can make the game more accessible to everyone, sure, by all means. I just miss the old Overwatch 1, where you still have these loot boxes, loot crates, and then you can actually get a whole bunch of items more. Sure, there's a lot of luck involved in it, but it's for me, it's part of the game. The hard part here is that you have to kind of draw the line between that and making sure people don't overspend, because obviously you can actually spend real money in it and then get currency of it and then use that to get a chance at getting these cosmetics. But I feel like if a game like Apex can still do loot crates and still have their battle pass and have a fun experience for everyone, except for when the servers are terrible, I think Blizzard should really rethink their approach with Overwatch 2. I still have high hopes for it, but even then, I wouldn't be surprised if suddenly Overwatch 2 just dies. I guess in this case, again. But I'm really hoping to see the game flourish once more. Even though, you know, a good chunk of what was planned for the game ended up getting cancelled, like, you know, no more single player campaign, or at least the original single player campaign they had in mind. It's not happening anymore. But they are adding more content to it. The game just got really stale at some point because we're pretty much doing the same thing every single time across same maps, and there's really not much like to it. I think that's pretty much a big problem for a lot of games nowadays, especially these multiplayer shooters. But yeah, I do get where this person is coming from. Like, listen to your community more and try your best to incorporate as well as you can. I think certain things like game balances, I get it, you kind of have to experiment and see how it goes. It's fine to experiment, don't play it safe, just give it a try. In fact, if Overwatch could do this is the one thing I actually had an idea last time. Imagine, if you will, a boss battle mode where you actually put in a concept of a character, maybe like an upcoming character, but you intentionally make them as imbalanced as possible. Either let the computer or one person play as that character, and then you have maybe like 5 or maybe 4 people like on the other side using regular characters. Maybe you can limit them to like maybe 1 tank, 1 DPS, 2 supports, or maybe 2 DPS, 1 support, whichever, and just fight. Because I remember there was one interesting story about Overwatch when it first came out, like Overwatch 1. Like Hanzo and Genji originally was one and the same character, but you see that there's some rebalancers or just like going through like the abilities, they ended up being split to 2. You have Hanzo and Genji, and yeah, imagining like Hanzo and Genji in one, like both of them having their abilities but in one character, actually sounds kind of insane. So imagine that concept in a single character and use that like as a boss, and we all fight against that. I think it'd be kind of fun. So yeah, that's just some random thoughts for content, you know. You never know what might happen. Now, to my own surprise, I did not know I was rambling on that long, but yeah. So I think a good chunk of this might have been cut just for, you know, time's sake. But yeah, this is one of those videos that I kind of want to do moving forward, on top of all the other tech-related stuff, maybe even gaming-related stuff that I might want to do. I'll still talk about phones or other gadgets, laptops, whatever on camera, but one of the things I do enjoy the most, not just me doing this job as a journalist, but also me as a streamer, the interactions with the people, the community has always been the most fun. And I'm hoping to fit more of this in the future, and I feel like this is one of those things that I can do consistently enough. Provided I don't run out of questions to ask though. So yeah, if you feel like there's anything you might want to add in more, or maybe I got something wrong, or maybe you have an idea for a question that I should ask you guys, feel free to leave them in the comments below. I don't think I have a name for this series exactly. I used to have something similar called To Die. Yeah, the other day I asked you, I don't know if I want to reuse that concept or not, because to be fair, I did take that from Jack's Films with his Yai video series. But yeah, let's see where this goes, and well, for now, I guess I'll see you guys again next time then. Bye bye!